He was in a car accident. The car got so badly thrashed, the airbags opened, but he walked away without a scratch. And he says, it was only Ma Varahi who protected me. I felt her presence. I felt her sitting there with me and saying, I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here. I'll protect you. Just chant the Varahi Kavacham. And from then, the Varahi Kavacham became my go-to. So it's the same thing because it's the same Fibonacci sequence which is at work. What you see in the flowers, what you see in the plants is what you see in the Sri Yantra. So about the directions, it's not necessary to worry too much about that. Forgiveness is a given. It's a non-negotiable. Even as something is happening which is hurting you, you should forgive. And not forgive saying I'm the bigger one, but forgive for your own sake. When Shakti is at its height, and it's like when you hear that now you have to get on the path, that's your doorbell ringing and Ma has come to claim you them. So this invocation in a way really helps to build a woman's confidence.
Hi, this is Akanksshaa. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. If you resonate with me, please like, comment, and share. Welcome to Multidimensional Soul Podcast and a Talk Show. On this show, we have with us today Vinita Rashinkar, who is a returning guest on Multidimensional Soul Talk Show and a podcast. A very warm welcome, Vinita ji, on Multidimensional Soul Podcast. Namaste. And talk show. It's so lovely to have you here, an honor to have you here again on this podcast. Shri Matre Namaha.
Shri Matre Namaha. Thank you, Akanksha ji, for giving me this privilege of appearing on your podcast yet again.
Before we dive into the conversation, we have the invocation.
Om Shuklam Varadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashante. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Matre Namaha.
Shri Matre Namaha. This is part 2 of a 2-part conversation. If you have not watched part 1, then we highly recommend that you watch that. The link for that is provided in the video description. We talked about parents and children relationships. I want to ask you something about spouses now. What happens when what happens when the spiritual advancement or evolution of one partner is more than the other partner, and there is suddenly a disconnect because there might be the change in terms of the vibration of both the partners. One is gone so ahead with the practices and everything, and the other one is still stuck in the matrix. What do you suggest then in that case?
So, for the individual who has progressed on the path, please bring a lot of humility to the table. Don't think that you have become great simply because you're spiritually evolved. And for the individual who feels left behind, please understand that it's the same person just pursuing a different path. And if both of them come to a consensus that nothing has actually changed between them, that the love remains the same, the respect for each other remains the same, but they have diverged slightly on the path, they can still remain one cohesive unit as a couple and still be there for each other through the highs and lows of life. So now in this case, the onus lies on the one who thinks of himself or herself as spiritually evolved. Because the whole point in spiritual evolution is that you do not discriminate between anyone. You think of everything around you as equal. There is no man, there is no woman, there is no child who is not worthy of your love. So you have to give that love to everyone and everything. So if someone's progressed way ahead, that's perfectly all right. They still have to bring a lot of humility to the table and not think that they are someone great because they're spiritually evolved, because they're not. Then the whole point is lost. They are not spiritually evolved.
Okay. So that is as far as marriages go. Like if the partners are married, I am going to ask you a very specific situation, and this is about twin flames. We had talked in our last episode about Shiva and Shakti, and it's a dance of divine masculine and divine feminine. And they come into union only when they are aligned with each other and with the source. And
Absolutely.
in twin flames, what happens is there is separation because the feminine and masculine have to work individually on breaking the societal templates and the conditioning. And it's a spiritual construct. The entire twin flame journey itself is spiritual journey.
True.
When there is a separation and divine feminine awakens first and ascends first, and the divine masculine later on catches. But the tricky part here is the divine masculine has free will in this world when he comes here. And he chooses not to evolve, not to ascend, and go with a karmic partner instead of the divine feminine. In that case, because you have a soul mission to complete in this world, by embodying the source, then it may not be always possible to come into union in this lifetime. So what is your understanding about that?
From my perspective, because the twin flame, twin soul is not so much of a Sanatana tradition, I understand a little bit of it, but for me, in the fact that I'm a practicing Hindu and I really believe in the moral code and ethics which have been set for us, the reason why we choose a certain partner or society chooses for us, it doesn't matter. We have a certain person that we are wedded to. I believe that if you don't want to create any further karmas, it is best to just go through with the marriage and deal with it. Of course, there are unusual cases. I'm not saying put up with abuse or anything. I'm saying in the routine scheme of things, if everything is okay and normal, but only the spiritual aspect is coming up, just continue with it and say this is a way of washing off my karmas and maintain the status quo. This is what my guru had taught me, because it's the same with even changing religions or converting or anything. You're born into a certain religion for a specific purpose, and converting at any point of time actually deflects your path. So in the same way, it's like you are in a committed marriage with someone, just stay on the path as best as you can, using the maximum amount of dharma that you can bring to the marriage. Now, if that is not meant to happen and there's no reconciliation possible, then of course the next steps have to be taken. But that is not in our hands really, because again, that's karmic, that's Runanubandha playing out.
True.
But by and large, I would say don't take any steps from your side to aggravate the situation.
When the soul contracts are there, because
Yes.
we get into marriages also based on soul contracts. But
Correct.
when the lessons are over, we know that the soul contracts are over. And in that case,
Yes.
there are time to separate the ways.
To separate, perhaps, yes, but not necessarily to make it a legal separation, not to seek the legal measures and just upset the entire social fabric. It may not be necessary for everyone to do that.
Can you talk a little bit about social contracts? How
Hmm.
how are they formed? Because I understand they are formed before we are born, and my understanding is also that we have a free will to change them once the lessons are over in this life. So, can you talk a little bit about that?
Runanubandha determines who comes into your life at what point of time. You don't get to choose your parents, you don't get to choose your nearest family. To some extent, you feel you have control over your life partner, but even that not really so, because the soul contract is already in place by then. And then the closest circle, whether it's your offspring, whether it's your siblings, your in-laws, these are the ones with whom you have the maximum amount of runanubandha. That is why they are the ones who are able to cause you that much grief also. The love comes from there, the grief also comes from there, which only points to the fact that this is only purely runanubandha at play. So, to some extent, yes, when the runanubandha is over, that relationship will automatically fall out. So if you've fallen out with your sibling or you've fallen out with your married sister-in-law or something, it's because that runanubandha is over. The lessons have been learned. You've aligned with yourself with whatever needed to be done, and you move on. But at no point do you stop wishing them well. You always think of them with love. You send them blessings, and that is the way you protect your karma. For me, that is the most important thing, that whoever breaks away from you for reasons of karma or runanubandha, still you can salvage your part by sending them love, by sending them your blessings. And of course, most importantly, forgiveness is a given, it's a non negotiable. Even as something is happening which is hurting you, you should forgive. And not forgive saying, I'm the bigger one, but forgive for your own sake. So if you do these three things, then you're not putting more karma into play.
Yeah. You talked about people causing us grief or giving us grief because of the attachments that we have and because of the runanubandha, that the soul contracts that we have. When do we know that we have to go deeper? There is a deeper calling of doing this sadhana in a deeper way. When does Tripura Sundari Mata kind of call us? Are there any signs, or how do we go about doing that?
You will know when she calls you. It's a very clear invocation to bring you onto the path. And then how you get there is miraculous when you look back. You'll feel like, I didn't do anything. How did I just transport myself into this new setup where everything is as per the wish of Ma? So it's just that you have to surrender and say, when she is ready for me, I will go. And it is with complete Sharanagati. And you will know. That's for sure. Many of the people who I guide, they say to me very clearly, they know when the calling came. And especially watch out during the Navratris, because that's one of the most common times when the calling comes. When Shakti is at its height, and it's like when you hear that now you have to get on the path, that's your doorbell ringing, and Ma has come to claim you.
When you get the calling, do you have to visit any particular location or start any chanting, or how does it happen? What do you have to do?
You have to figure that out based on the circumstances that you find yourself in. But when Ma calls you, she will also give you the answers to all those questions. She will show you the way. She will guide you. What book to read, what the Instagram post which comes up, the YouTube video which crops up, the people who come into your life. she will make all of it happen.
We have been talking about divine feminine embodiment, and now it is all the more important in this age as the feminine leadership is rising across the world. And it is important to shift from all the chaos and the wars and the aggression and the masculine driven, patriarchal driven kind of society into feminine leadership. If you were to give any one particular practice, a mantra, a chant, or any practice to embody the divine feminine, doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, because feminine is a principle. But if you were to give that to our audience, what will you give?
From the Markandeya Purana. Rupam dehi jayam dehi yasho dehi dvishojahi. Because it just brings out everything that every human needs, regardless of masculine or feminine, but much more so for women, because we are the ones who lack the confidence that men we see so naturally in them. So this invocation, in a way, really helps to build a woman's confidence.
Can you
And
just
it's the best affirmation in the world.
can you please chant it once again?
Rupam dehi jayam dehi yasho dehi dvishojahi. Rupam is beauty, but not necessarily just the superficial beauty that we are talking about, but a more internal beauty, which is not skin deep, but which comes from goodness of heart.
Yeah.
Jayam Dehi, which means victory over everything that we touch. Yasho Dehi, give us yashas, success
Success, yeah.
in whatever we do. And keep our enemies at bay. And these enemies don't have to be external, they could even be your internal enemies: hate, jealousy, greed, depression, all of these things. So, in one line, you have said it all, and you have affirmed for yourself what you need.
And do you recommend it chanting 108 times or?
No, this is just an affirmation. So you can just say it whenever you feel you need the support of Ma Kali or any of the more divine, like the fierce goddesses.
Okay,
Because this is this is from the Argala Stotram.
okay.
Yeah. So effectively, this was one way of the Devis asking for more power in the battlefield.
Hmm.
So in a way, life itself is a battlefield.
Mhm.
We
Right.
can just use that same analogy here.
Okay. And is there any practice or chant of Tripura Sundari Mata that you recommend that we can do on daily basis?
See, because all the chants of Ma Lalita are either, so the Devi Khadgamala perhaps would be the best one,
Okay.
because it's the shortest out of the whole bunch, whether you look at Lalita Sahasranama or Lalita Trishati or all the others. The Devi Khadgamala can give you protection. It
Okay.
can be like a kavacham or even the Varahi kavacham, but for that you need initiation.
Okay.
But once you're initiated into the Varahi kavacham, that becomes like the ultimate, most potent protection ever.
But Devi Khadgamala, you don't need initiation and you can chant that.
You can. Because it's just the positioning of the different Devis in the
Okay.
Sri Yantra.
Okay. We are seeing a shift in the collective consciousness, and we are moving from 3D to 5D at higher vibration. So, which principles and what parts of Sri Vidya do you specifically say that we can apply for the entire collective to move? Because what we understand is that there is some critical mass that is required, that 144,000 or whatever number, that number varies, but a certain percentage of people, if we do that, then it will expedite the humanity's ascension. So what do you recommend that people can do for collective ascension?
The easiest thing would be Yantra, the Shri Chakra Yantra meditation, because that does not need any resources. It does not need any initiation. All it needs is for you to just look at the yantra and meditate upon it, and your left and right hemisphere of the brain are already talking to each other at that point and bringing about a cohesiveness. And that much is enough, because the Shri Yantra is a portal, it's a dimension, it's a gateway to another level of consciousness. So for me, if I had to say, it would be the Shri Chakra Yantra and meditation upon it.
You talk about Mahameru. So can you talk a little bit about Mahameru and what is the connection with spiritual awakening?
So we just spoke about the Shri Yantra. The Shri Yantra is a two-dimensional version of the Mahameru. If you pull the Shri Yantra up in a three-dimensional form, it becomes the Mahameru. There is really no difference between the 2D and the 3D version, except for the number of dimensions that it covers. So whatever applies for the Shri Yantra is equally applicable to the Mahameru. It's just that it's more visible in a three-dimensional form as a Mahameru, as that triangular thing that you see.
Okay, so the 3D part, 3D Shri Yantra
Yes.
and Mahameru. So from spiritual awakening perspective and spiritual practices perspective, both are equally potent, right? You don't have to have the 3D version.
You don't have to. In fact, the 2D version is proven to be a lot more effective,
Okay.
more powerful than the 3D, but the 3D is used for worship. When you want to do a kumkumarchane or you want to do an abhishekam, the 3D version is much more easy to use than the 2D version.
Okay, and is it okay if somebody gives it as a gift to you? That is one question. And the another is there any specific direction in our house where we should place it, the Shri Yantra?
Not really. It doesn't matter. It's just the blueprint of the universe. So does it matter where you place flowers in the house? It's the same thing, because it's the same Fibonacci sequence which is at work. What you see in the flowers, what you see in the plants is what you see in the Shri Yantra. So about the directions, it's not necessary to worry too much about that. The other question was about the gift. It's important with sacred geometry to be a little cautious, because if it is not accurate, then there might be some difficulties which might crop up. So when it's a gift, you're not really sure of the accuracy of the geometry. That's the only reason I would be a little wary of it, but otherwise it's okay. If you're able to somehow find out that this is an accurate geometry, then no problem at all. It's even better when you receive it as a gift.
Oh, is it? Okay. And if somebody wants to buy a genuine, authentic Shri Yantra, where can they buy it?
Again, a very loaded question. I don't want to sound commercial. I don't have any interests in anyone selling Sri Yantra. Anywhere in the south of India is pretty good, near the temple towns. But one company that I can safely recommend is Shunya Wellness. I have no financial interest in the company. I'm very clear about that. It's just that I find their products really good. So people can just have faith and buy the product with them, because I trust them. Their work is good.
Okay, so we'll give the link in the video description. And what happens if, let's say, Sri Yantra has become old or you don't want to use that for some reason and when you want to buy another one for new energy to come in, new abundance energy to come in, what do you do with the old Yantra? Because they have to be disposed or released with certain methods.
So
I
we
would
we
say.
will not be able to do that. It's best to donate it to a temple.
Okay.
The priest there will know what to do with it. Or if that is not a possibility, just let it go at a river, so that it just goes and settles at the bottom of the river, where nothing can happen. But usually people just donate it to the temple because the priests will know what to do with it.
Yeah, I think that's a very good suggestion. Can you talk about some stories of Sri Vidya and from your life as well as from your clients' lives?
A lot of stories. We recently did what is called the Vashya Varahi Sadhana, where it was only people who already knew the Varahi Mula Mantra and had done all the Purascharana who did this practice during the Navratri. And we were doing it at midnight because Varahi Sadhana is supposed to be at midnight. And once the 9 nights were over, a lot of people wrote back to me about their experiences. Many people say, there was one gentleman who wrote that he was in a car accident. The car got so badly thrashed, the airbags opened, but he walked away without a scratch. And he says, it was only Ma Varahi who protected me. Then there were lots of other positive stories as well, where there was one gentleman who wrote in saying that he had no expectation of a promotion and also something very positive happening in his personal life and attributing it only to the Vashyavarahi sadhana which he did. So numerous examples of this. And at one point, it was like when they say, thank you for facilitating it. It was in a way, like I was channeling the energy of Ma Varahi and helping them to be guided on the path. So it felt really good. It was very satisfying. And personally, for me, it was the most powerful Navratri that I have experienced in my life. It was like on the 9th night when it was the final sadhana. It was only for 9 nights because it's a very powerful one. It was like I didn't want to let her go. It was almost like she's leaving my hand and going, and I'm like a child crying, Ki Ma, don't go. And then I felt her presence. I felt her sitting there with me and saying, I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here. I'll protect you. Just chant the Varahi Kavacham. And from then, the Varahi Kavacham became my go to. So it has been a very, very powerful experience, and I'm really living in her consciousness right now. Eating, sleeping, drinking, dreaming, everything is about Ma Varahi for me.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Yeah. When we talk about gods and goddesses, and as per Vedic scriptures, we have these Saptalokas, and
Yeah,
many gods and goddesses are said to come from Swargaloka, as in Swargaloka,
Svarga.
Swarga. But there is this Trinity, Ganesha, and some others, Devi, they come from the causal level, which is beyond Satyaloka. So, what is your understanding about these, the manifestations of these goddesses? Which loka do they come from?
See, I truly believe in the Advaita philosophy under which we study Sri Vidya, that ultimately there is just one source, which is the Nirguna Brahman. And even all this talk of the Lokas and all of that, it was only to lend a human perspective to make people want to behave in a better fashion. So I don't really know. Perhaps it exists in some parallel dimension, which I'm not sure of, but I really haven't studied that. So I would not be able to give an informed opinion, except to say that my belief is that eventually we become one with the source, regardless of the loka, regardless of whether it's swarga or patala or anything. It's just that we become one with the source when we are no longer in this embodiment.
Yeah, no, that's true. But it's like a part of our consciousness is always in different dimensions and different lokas at the same time
Right.
as we are here.
Yes.
And that is why when we remember who we are in those dimensions, that's how we awaken to that part of our consciousness. And that's why they say that
Right.
whenever you actually worship these deities, you are not just doing it as a ritual to for them to kind of only to protect you or take care of you. It's like you are embodying those qualities within
Yes,
yourself.
that's true. That's absolutely true.
Yeah. So from that perspective, I thought like it is, it you may remember, like it's from remembrance perspective.
From remembrance, it's aligning with that memory
Yeah.
and then trying to live it out in this embodiment.
Correct. Yeah.
But I'm really not so familiar. I'm still studying all of these concepts
Okay.
because my focus so far has been more Tantra and more Sri Vidya. So these are all deeper concepts, which perhaps with time I will understand better.
Sure. You talked about Tantra, and Tantra is often misunderstood. And there is Vigyan Bhairav, is, for example, is part of Tantra. And
Yes.
also Aghoris also practice Tantra. And that because of these things, then people are scared because black magic and all those things are also part of Tantra. So, from day-to-day perspective, what can you say? What practices of Tantra can be useful for regular householders?
Everything that you're doing in today's version of Sanatana is Tantra. There's a little bit of the Puranas, there's a lot of the Tantras, and there's very little of the Vedic method. So already you are practicing Tantra without knowing it. Because if you were doing just the Vedic method, you wouldn't have all the deities. In the Vedic times, you only had Agni and Surya and Varuna. You didn't have all of the Ganeshas and the Shivas and the Shaktis and all of that. So that itself is a tantric methodology of worship.
But the Puranas came in Upanishads, right? After Upanishads.
Yes. Yes.
And they do have, there's Ganesh Puran, there's Bhagavad Puran, and there are Puranas. So Puranas
Yes.
are there,
Yeah,
do
the
have these dates.
Puranic devatas are worshipped using tantric methods, not Vedic methods. See, a temple, for example, didn't exist in the Vedic times. A temple only came into existence when the Tantra came in, after the Puranas came, after the Agamas were written. Because where is the temple architecture written about? It's in the Agama Shastras. It's not in your Vedic texts.
Okay, interesting.
So this is the most common misunderstanding of Vedas versus Tantra. Vedas were more philosophical. They were everything to do with thought processes, with the mind, and all of that. Tantra was the more practical application of that philosophy of the Vedas.
You talk about Shri Vidya being a Gupta sadhana.
Yes.
Now, a secret sadhana or practice. So, if householders have to practice it in daily life, why is it kept a secret sadhana? And how can they then
Well,
practice?
I will give you an example from a session I had just before this, where there was a girl who was saying that if I told my mother that I'm going to be doing even just a simple Bala Tripura Sundari mantra, she would say, "Oh, but why? Everything is going fine. Why do you want to ruffle the feathers of the universe and all of that?" So, the point in us keeping our sadhana gupt is only so that other people will not prejudice your mind. Because another example, there was this one person who had the Sri Yantra for the longest time. Then one day he went and announced in his office that, because of the Sri Yantra, I got my promotion and all of that. And the moment someone heard that, they said, "Are you doing Abhisheka? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Are you offering Naivedyam?" And then it shook his head completely. So whatever benefit he was getting out of it went out of the window. So the point is, the closer you keep it to your heart, the less corrupted it will become. It's gupt only for that reason.
Yeah, true. And what you keep secret is also sacred.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you're not allowing the profanity of another's judgment and bias and opinion
Yeah.
to color what you're seeing as your own.
So you talked about beautiful experiences in day-to-day life that your students have had, and you also talked about very powerful experience of Varahi. Can you talk
Yes.
about some occult experiences that you have had?
With Ma Varahi? Yes,
Varahi
probably
or
it has to be Ma Varahi because right now I'm living in her consciousness, but
okay.
it's just see, the word occult is actually a little off-putting because all experiences for me are magical, miraculous, serendipitous. I don't like to use the word occult because there's something dark involved with it. For me, every waking, sleeping, dreaming, like I said, when it's with Ma Varahi, it becomes magical. So whatever I seek is what I get. So do you call that occult or do you call it magic? It's like one experience which I can share with you is when we went on the Shiva Shakti tour across the temples of South India. It was just like the entire group experienced the magic of Mavarahi. Now, there can't be anything more mystical than that, where it's not an individual experience, but a collective experience, where there are nine of us, and all nine of us felt that this is her presence, this is her energy, she is driving us to it. And we had this most beautiful experience where we are sitting before her temple, the parda is closed, and eventually, when he opens the curtain and we get a darshan of her, everyone has this feeling that Ma Varahi is staring specifically at them. And it shook everyone. At their core, it shook everyone. And then on that same trip, without revealing too much, there was one temple which was not on the agenda, but anyway, I knew that it was going to be because you can't really escape it. And later, when there were two people who were coming out of the temple after that very unbelievable darshan, because it was not even on our itinerary, but a lot of things happened which led us to that. There was a Panditji who appeared out of nowhere and he spoke to them in Tamil and said, "You didn't want to come, so how was your experience?" And they were completely shell shocked. And these are two educated, really like logical thinking women. And they were like, "How did he know that we didn't want to come?" And he's asking us, how was your experience? So these kind of things, I wouldn't want to call them occult, but they're magical and they're
Yeah,
mystical and they're utterly so beautiful.
so beautiful. Yes, synchronicities and
Yes,
serendipity.
it's
Yes,
serendipitous.
yes,
Yes.
serendipitous. Yeah, occult has a negative connotation. I do agree that it is. Yes, I would also call them magical and synchronistic
Yeah.
experiences. Beautiful.
True.
Yeah, beautiful. What can you tell the younger generation now? Because we are still kind of getting into the practices as in across ages. You can still say that, okay, you get into this practice and how beneficial it will be for you. For younger generation, the span of attention itself is a problem. and and they are not inclined at all, and we have lost all the traditions of, like, how I remember in my childhood, we were taught chanting and everything, like all the Ganesha chants and all the chants we used to chant every single day, and Shubham Karoti Kalyanam, like every single day we had those practices. Now they're no longer there in any families. And the Gen Zs are very, very independent. Of course, some of them are very spiritually advanced and evolved also, and they have come here to do the work of
Yes.
awakening others. But
Right.
if you were to give any advice to Gen Zs, then what would that be?
See, from my experience with all my sessions and with all my interactions with people, I would say work comes first. Priority has to be your dharma. make sure that you fulfill your obligations towards self-actualization, towards your family, towards all the things which are supremely important. Don't think that by running into spirituality, you're going to achieve anything. A time will come when spirituality will call you. It's good to have a 5 minute, 10-minute practice where you give gratitude, you seek the grace of the divine. But more than that, don't get carried away, because I'm seeing that a lot with people who say, I don't want the regular 9 to 5 life, I want the spiritual life. The spiritual life is not really what you're seeing. There's a lot of hard work. If you're not willing to do that hard work in your real life, why do you think you'll be able to do it in your spiritual life? It calls for a lot of sacrifices to be made. So unless you're ready for that, please don't think spirituality has a lot of the answers. And this is what I always tell all my the people that I guide who are younger, that don't give up what you're doing, thinking that, okay, I'm going to go away to this ashram and find peace. The peace is not in the ashram. The peace is inside of you. And it's for you to find it there. Because I've seen this as a recurring pattern, Akanksha ji, where people have given up everything when they're at the height of their career, and they've thrown it away saying, this is not what I was looking for. I think I'll find it at an ashram. And they go to an ashram, they're there for 3 4 years, and they realize that they've not got the answers, and they've thrown away the life that they had. And they are the most disillusioned, they're the saddest people, because they have neither this nor that. So my advice is that please just make sure you fulfill all your responsibilities first and then seek the path. This path is not for everyone, unless, of course, you've decided that this life is only going to be dedicated to spirituality and you go away and you make that your life, then it's fine. But you can't straddle two boats at the same time and make sure that both don't sink. It's not going to work.
What are the pitfalls and challenges in following the Sri Vidya path specifically?
Uh, there is one priest, a male priest, who says that he warns all the men to not practice Sri Vidya because it makes them very effeminate. And he tells them, do not allow your wives to practice Sri Vidya because they will become too powerful and they will boss over you.
Oh, wow.
And he gives the example of Jayalalitha and says that Jayalalitha was a very devout Lalita follower, and see how she subdued all the men in her periphery. So for me, the pitfall is, as a woman, do you think it's a pitfall? I don't know. I don't think of it as a pitfall. I think you become immensely powerful. You become so aware of your own potential and you become fearlessness. There is a fearlessness which comes in. So these are the that's the only pitfall. If you think of it as a pitfall, for me, it's not. It's actually everything positive. So there is no pitfall.
If we were to, because we were talking about embodying the divine feminine energy, if you were to kind of assess whether we are embodying it correctly and how much of it we are embodying it, what would you suggest, whether it's man or a woman?
I think it's just for you to know and understand, and you just have to intuit it and see if you're feeling a connection with Ma or not. There's no quantifiable way of figuring out whether you're embodying her or not, whether you're male or female. It's just the feeling of connection, the feeling that she's there for you at all times and that she's protecting you, she's holding your hand, and seeing everything with an equanimity and knowing that even if something bad happens, you justify it to yourself, saying in the bigger picture, it will all work out. For me, that is what embodiment of Ma looks like. That you have a bird's eye view of life. It's not just what's happening at this current moment vis-a-vis how you're feeling.
We feel the presence of the Divine Mother when we transcend our ego mind. and become one, surrender and become one with the mother. So, in day to day life, what practice do you suggest to do that, to feel her presence and her connection so deep within us?
Yantra meditation, mantra japa, listening to the Lalita Sahasranama, practicing Kundalini Shakti, all of these things, anything from the tantric toolkit is fine.
Okay.
It all works towards that same deepening and forging of the connection with Ma.
Yeah.
Or for that matter, Shiva, or for any Ishta Devata of your choice. It's just that you have to be in their consciousness all the time. So if you're eating, then you think, you say a prayer, you say thank you. If you're drinking, then it's the same. So when you're going to sleep, thank you for the beautiful day. Everything is Sharanagati at her feet.
We talked about Ishta Devata, and for each person, Ishta Devata is different because it's for that person. And then there is Kula Devata, and there is Grama Devata, and so there are so many different deities, and at times it becomes overwhelming to kind of, what do we do in day-to-day basis? We have this much time, and and we have to do these many things. So can you just explain these different deities, and then daily basis what is recommended?
Kula Devata essentially is what is passed down through your family lineage. The Grama Devata is the place where you're currently staying or where your family has stayed the most, and the presiding deity of that place. You don't have much choice over either of these two. The only choice you have is to pick your own Ishta Devata. So Kula Devata you worship once a year when you do the anything, any Tarpana or anything, or during the Navratri or during Diwali. The Grama Devata you do seasonally, maybe 4 times or 3 times in a year. And the Ishta Devata is the one that you're connected with on an everyday basis, for which your sadhana is.
And Ishta Devata can be anyone who you feel connected with, right? It doesn't have to be.
And it can keep changing also, because a lot of people have
Correct.
this view that Hanuman was my Ishta Devata. Now I feel drawn to Lord Shiva. Now I feel drawn to Ma Varahi. It's okay. It changes from time to time. And it's perfectly acceptable, because again, we go back to that same concept of Nirguna and Saguna Brahman. Everyone is just a channel to lead us to. Every one of these deities is just a way for us to reach the source.
True. And they say that when you feel called, it's not that you are calling them, they call you.
True. Works both ways, I presume.
Beautiful. Okay, so what's your parting message for our audience today? We had a beautiful conversation.
Parting message is just be authentic to yourself. Stand up for what you think is right. Don't put up with injustices in the name of societal norms. And just be true to yourself. And ultimately, that's the only thing that can help you on the spiritual path. And if you can do some spiritual practice, even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes in a day, that's superb. If not, then the only other solution is, please put away your devices, put away your phones, put away your laptops, and take a walk in nature, because that also is connecting with the divine. But don't damage yourself by these addictions to the mobile phone, incessant scrolling, all of that. It doesn't do you any good. It only hacks away at your self esteem, makes you feel lesser than you actually are, makes you feel incomplete. And stay away from that as much as you can. And this is for all age groups. It's not only for the younger people, because I see older people becoming more addicted than the younger ones.
So thank you. Thank you so much for coming here again. It was absolutely a joy and honor hosting you once again on my podcast. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Akanksha ji, for the very, very deep, probing questions, which really made me think, which brought a lot of some of the knowledge which we normally don't share to the forefront. So, my immense gratitude that we have you in this world to guide us and to help us on this path. Wishing you an abundance of all things enriching. And to all our listeners, may they all be blessed with all that their hearts desire and whatever they deserve. Shri Matre Namaha.
Absolutely. It's so beautiful. Thank you. Shri Matre Namaha.
Thank you.
Yes. Vinita Rashinkar is a spiritual healer, writer, speaker, wellness expert. She is the founding director of Shri Chakra Yantra Foundation. It's a non-profit organization, and she is a best-selling author of many books. And her recent book is Tantra, Mantra, and Yantra of Shri Vidya. Her details, if you want to connect with her, are provided in the video description.
Thank you for watching and listening in wherever you are in the world. As Ramdas says, that we all are just walking each other home. So thank you for co-creating the new earth along with me and our guests. And if you resonate with me, do subscribe to my channel and do let us know how you find our episodes. Thank you so much. Lots of love.